All right, welcome everybody. Our webinar topic for Ask the Building Expert series is water damage and flood remediation, which is an interesting topic. Some of you have probably gone through this already and want you to just be aware of what the whole process and procedures are. This is Lance Luke and Martin Pea. Ask the Building Expert, that's our webinar series, and we do this to help property managers, building owners, condo board members, homeowners, and anyone else who's interested in the topic. So this webinar is presented by Construction Management Inspection, which is a construction management company located in Honolulu, Hawaii. And let's get right into it. Water damage and flood remediation. Now, this is interesting topic because it involves water and water damages and how water can damage. So question is, I got a flood. Now what do I do? And when I say flood, it could be any type of water, whether it's ocean water or rainwater or water from your plumbing system. And there's different terminologies of what a flood actually is with respect to insurance. So I'll be talking more about that as we go through the webinar. So the process is not that easy. It's not like when you have water damage, you pick up the phone and you call somebody and then everything is taken care of. Sometimes the insurance company may not show up or may say you have no coverage or you can't find a contractor or a series of contractors. Say it's a plumbing issue. You're going to have to call not only the plumber, but you're going to have to call another company to come and extract the water out, and maybe another company to cut the walls open to let it dry and bring these blowers and fans in. So it's a whole complicated process that not many people understand. So when there's a water occurrence, okay, and I'm not talking about like just a small leak that's dripping in your sink. I'm talking about enough water to damage either your house walls, your furniture, carpet, paintings, anything like that. So water removal and damage FFE removal. The first step when you have a water event is to make the call and have people come over to mitigate the problem. And so if the damage is extensive and the FFE stands for furnitures, fixtures, and equipment, or furnishings, fixtures, and equipment. And that's basically things that could get damaged that are personal items, such as furniture, maybe flooring or other building components and that kind of thing. So one of the first things is, of course, to get the water out, right? So you companies come in, bring in wet vacs, bring in dehumidifiers. You got these fans blowing, maybe heat. You got equipment that's actually sucking the moisture out of the air, to dry out the walls and the floor. And the moisture mapping is a series of protocols where you have equipment such as a thermographer or even a moisture detector, and every inch or so of the walls, you kind of map it out to see where the moisture is. So if it's a flood, let's say, that affected the floor 4 inches above the floor, and then when they do the thermography camera, it's found that 5 inches above the floor, 6 inches above the floor is dry. Okay, so the moisture mapping is you just mapping out areas of the house that have moisture. And you could have some areas that are farther away from say the plumbing pipe that's leaking and the wall is only wet 1 inch above the floor. And the farther away you go, now you have walls that are completely dry. So in the map, it'll show the main area of concentrated water or moisture, and then less and less. And that's the map that these remediation companies use, so they know how to deal with the flood. So maybe cases where they have to cut out entire walls. There's situations where you cut out 2 inches on the bottom of the wall and you let things dry out. Okay, so the moisture mapping is a key player in this whole remediation process when there's a flood. Now, what else is involved besides this? Now, the first step is you have to get rid of the water, right? You have to stop whatever's causing the water. So if it's a plumbing pipe, the plumber would come in and fix the pipe, right? But at the same time, there's another company coming in extracting the water and all that. So now you got, 2 different companies. The main company, if you hire a remediation company that can take the water out and do the moisture mapping and even do the repair work, then that's like a turnkey situation. Now let's see what happens if your house was built like prior to 1977, 1978, and there's a flood and your walls get damaged and your ceiling gets damaged. Okay, and there's a question. Okay, now we're not talking about mold just yet. We're talking about hazmat. So there's a likely chance that if it's an older house, and when I say house, it could be single family dwelling, or it could be a condo or an apartment unit. Now, if it's an older house, some of the building components may contain hazardous materials such as lead paint and asbestos. And asbestos is fairly common. If it gets wet, you can't just go cut open walls that have asbestos containing material or even the ceiling. So it becomes a hazmat issue. That's why one of the first things that's done before they start cutting open walls and removing ceiling material is they have to test the material to see if it contains asbestos and lead paint. Now, more so, it's asbestos that can be in drywall, in your drywall mud, in your tape. You could have flooring with mastic that has asbestos containing material. Your popcorn ceiling could have asbestos containing material. So before a company comes in and starts demolishing walls and ceiling and all that, they have to make sure that testing's done before they do anything. Either that, or they can assume that it does have asbestos material and then treat it accordingly. Okay, but it's hard to do that on an insurance claim because the insurance company is not going to pay the claim if you're just presuming that something is asbestos containing. You have to actually have the test results and all that. So that's the hazmat part of it. Now, in addition to asbestos and lead paint, there's also the hazmat of mold, and that's a separate issue. Mold wasn't there when the house was built, right? Like asbestos in the walls and your popcorn ceiling. Mold happens to grow after a water event, and mold can start growing within 12 to 48 hours after your water event. So it happens really fast. So if you wait 3-4 days, a week before you start doing anything, there's mold that can be growing, and there's different types of mold. There's some mold that is not really hazardous, and there's some mold that's very toxic, but you don't want to take a chance, right? So you bring in the experts that can do the testing and advise you accordingly. So normally, if there's mold, when I'm on these projects where there's a flood or water event, I don't have the company clean the mold. I have the company cut the mold out and remove the drywall, get rid of it and bring in new drywall. That's one option. The other option is you can clean it and encapsulate it. Encapsulating is a form of spray painting or apply some liquid and it hardens and it covers up the mold basically. So if you don't clean the mold, okay, so let's say you clean it and it's not really cleaned that well. There's still mold spores in the drywall. What happens if it gets wet again? Guess what? The mold spores can be activated again, and all of a sudden the cycle starts anew. So that's why the best thing to do is cut out the moldy drywall, get rid of it, and not clean it. Because cleaning, you never know if it's cleaned properly. If it gets wet again, mold starts growing on the wall. The mold grows on organic material such as paper, lumber, and all that. It doesn't grow on metal or plastic or concrete necessarily. Okay, wood. Can mold grow on wood? Yes, because that's a cellulose material. Just like mold grows on the drywall paper. Paper is made from trees, right? So it's cellulose type material also. Now, mold can be on your clothes and all that, but that's a different kind of mold. It's more like mildew. So here's another process in this whole procedure: the cleaning, sanitizing, and drying. You have to, after all the water is extracted, okay, and there's no more water that can be extracted through your wet vac. Okay, so the cleaning, sanitizing, drying, provided that the water is clean water. If it's not clean, then that's a whole different method. Okay, now if it's dirty water, such as wastewater, because your sewer pipe cracked and now sewage is flying all over the place, it's kind of hard to clean and sanitize. So you have carpet padding. Guess what? There's no way to clean that. Just rip it up and throw it away, dispose of it. Your carpet, your padding. There's situations where they had bamboo flooring or wood flooring, and there was a sewage leak, and people tried to clean it. But guess what? On the bottom and in the cracks, you still have sewage, right? So I wrote up a report just to get rid of it. Remove it all, get to your concrete slab, and now you sanitize the slab and make sure the slab is clean before you apply the new flooring. So this is a whole process which whatever company's hired, they're supposedly trained to do all these things. Okay, and this is the cleaning part of it. Once everything's clean, okay, then you go to the next step. If there's walls, drywall that got damaged and other building components, now it's the reconstruction stage. And that's called pre-restoration repairs or reconstruction. So you remove what you need to remove, and then you start rebuilding again. So as you can see in this image, they're cleaning what looks like tile or something, and hopefully, this was a plumbing leak caused by a water pipe and not a sewage pipe. If it's a sewage pipe, you wouldn't see them trying to clean the surface of the tile, right? You would remove everything. So that's just a heads up for you. And then when the restoration is complete, you do your punch list and you move in, or you go back in to take a look, and hopefully everything is back to normal. Now, if it's a complete house that got flooded, it's a complete restoration. if the flooding only occurred in one or two rooms, say your bathroom had a leaky pipe and it only flooded the bathroom and an adjoining room, it's not a complete restoration of the whole house. It's just a restoration of some rooms in the house. Likewise, you may have a kitchen where the dishwasher leaked, but then you only have affected areas such as the kitchen and your dining room. So it all depends on the situation. Okay, and basically, in a nutshell, that's what this whole water damage remediation talk is about. The conclusion from the building expert is make sure you hire the right company. Make sure you don't wait. Okay, so for example, if you live in a condo and your pipe did not leak, but a neighbor's pipe leaked, maybe next to your unit or above, you don't wait until the guy does something, because what if he doesn't do anything? Okay, so what you need to do is call your own insurance company. If you have to call your own remediation companies, water extraction companies, whatever, do that. Because I've had situations where I get the call and people said, oh yeah, it's been like a month now and the guy's plumbing leaked above me and I've been trying to get him to fix it, but he says he contacted his insurance company, and then you're waiting. And in the meantime, you look at your walls and mold's growing on it. So don't wait for anybody else. Just take action on your own. File a claim with your own insurance company, and they can follow up if they have to. Right? They're going to subrogate against the other unit owner's insurance company. If the other unit owner does not have insurance, they'll go after that unit owner. The other thing is, if you're in a condo and you have major damages, you need to have the condo association file their own insurance claim under the master policy, right? If it's a small claim that is less than your deductible, then they're going to say, well, you're going to end up having to, fix it on your own using your own insurance company. What you miss, we've given a lot of different webinars on construction and building topics and some real estate. You go to our website, you can watch the recorded webinars for free. And what's coming up, we have a whole bunch of other topics dealing with construction, buildings, real estate, and so forth. So you go to our website, askbuildingexpert.now.site, and that's a pretty big site that we've developed. It has all our past webinars we've given, and it's on demand. You can watch it at any time. We also have handouts. We have free books. We have some books on how safe is your building. We have a book on monster houses. We have concrete spalling repair, cast iron drain piping, and we're adding more and more. Every month we're adding one book. So if you want to join our Book of the Month Club, go to our website and you can sign up for that. And in your email, you get the free book PDF. If you want to pay and buy it on Amazon, it's available. Those books are available on Amazon too. Okay, so hopefully I've breezed through this. I know I eliminated a bunch of different steps, but I wanted to make sure you got the overall view of the topic. So now is the Q&A time. You got questions, I got answers. If you need to email me or call, number is 808-422-2132. Email lanceluke@hawaiibuildingexpert.com. Now, probably the best thing to do is email, because if you call, you might end up, if you're lucky, that's my number, getting a hold of me. If not, then I can call you back later. But let's see what else I have here. So this is the end. I'm going to bring Martin up, see if we have any questions that anybody has asked over the internet, and we'll go from there. So let me get Martin on. Martin, are you around?
Yes, Lance, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I'm gonna stop screen share here.
Okay.
Okay, so hopefully we have questions. I understand that there was an issue with Facebook, so we're only streaming on LinkedIn, right?
That's right. I tried to check on that some more, and yeah, there's some technical problems with our Facebook streaming today. So those of you that you normally view on Facebook will have to catch it on the replay.
Okay, so if there's any questions, I'll be happy to entertain them at this point.
Yeah, we've had a few questions that have come in, so let me pass them on to you. The first one here is, what are some common causes of water damage in homes or buildings, and what steps can be taken to prevent it?
Okay, I'm going to take this time now to explain the differences in a flood. So as far as the insurance, the federal flood insurance group, a flood is caused by either a tsunami or a overflowing stream or a event such as a hurricane, heavy rain, and that sort of thing. That's considered a flood by federal guidelines, and even insurance for flood insurance. That's a separate insurance for that type of flood. Now, there's terminology where you have a leaky pipe or broken pipe in your house and say, oh, my house got flooded out. Okay, so that's a different type of flood. That's not covered by flood insurance. Okay, it's covered by your homeowner's insurance. So you got to remember there's different types of flood. The national flood is acts of God, basically, right? Overflowing stream, tsunami, hurricane, tropical storm, and then there's damages caused by that. Super rainstorm, and all of a sudden your roof's leaking. Okay, that's that type of flood, as opposed to water damage caused by leaky piping, or it could be like you had rain and then your roof leaked, but it wasn't like a major storm, right? It was just maybe you never maintain your roof, and that's why there's leaks. So getting back to the type of flood that your own homeowner's insurance would cover, it's not the natural disaster type of flood. It's a leaky pipe, supply pipe, maybe your toilet overflows, your sink backed up, and those kind of things. So there's limits on your insurance policy, and some insurance policies cover certain things and some don't. Now, there's a mold exclusion on the new policies I'm reading now. There's a mold exclusion. None of the insurance companies cover mold, right? Although they may help with the remediation, but it's, if you read the fine print, basically it's hard to get coverage for a lot of different things. So Martin, can you repeat the question? I want to make sure that I answer everything about the question.
Sure. It just was asking, what are some common causes of the water damage, which you kind of touched on, natural versus others, yeah. Water damage in homes or buildings, and what steps can be taken to prevent it?
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
water damage could be from your supply piping, which is the piping that fresh water comes out. You turn the faucet on at your sink or your tub shower. That's supply piping. That's fresh water. Okay. The water going into your toilet is actually fresh, clean water also. Okay. Now, there's a difference between supply piping and drain piping. Drain piping is gray water or wastewater. For instance, if you're running your dishwasher or your laundry. Okay, that's not sewage water, but it's considered gray water. It's like in between sewage water and supplied piping fresh water. And then you have your wastewater, which is sewage water, right? Any kind of water that when you flush your toilet, it goes in the drain pipe. That's sewage water, regardless of what's in the water. Okay, so that's a different type of water damage, it's itself. You got fresh water, clean water, then you got gray water, and then you got wastewater. Now there's different levels of cleanup based on different ratings of the type of water. Okay, so how to prevent that? You can prevent it by having your plumbing inspected. And most people, it's just set it and forget it. We're using our pipes, we're using our faucets, and then only when it starts leaking, then we call a plumber. Okay. Because why spend the money bringing in a plumber just to inspect, right? What if nothing's wrong? Well, I'm here to tell you that if you're going to be proactive, you should have a plumber come in and look at all your piping. Yes, it does cost money, but that's a lot cheaper than calling him up at 2 a.m. on a Saturday and saying, oh, I need you to come now. My pipe's leaking or something like that, right? So, and what he'll come in, what if you have like, those shut-off valves under your sink and under your toilet? They could be called angle stops. It could be shut-off valves. What if it's so old that if your toilet starts overflowing and you try to shut it off, the thing is frozen and you can't turn it? I've had people call me, oh, what do? I can't turn it. And then later on they call back and said, well, I used my wrench and the whole handle broke off and now water's shooting out of that pipe. I said, at what point in time do you think you're going to call a licensed plumber? You do it yourself. It doesn't necessarily save you money, right? So what's worse is if you have a cracked drain pipe or clogged drain, and now you got sewage overflowing in your whole house and you can't stop it. There's no shut-off valve for sewage, right? So it's best to have a plumber come in, run a camera down, snake the line or whatever. That's just for maintenance. Do you know that condo buildings do that? And I recommend every so often you run a camera down, jet it, snake it, or whatever, clean the lines, right? You don't want to wait. You want to be proactive. If you wait, you're waiting until something happens, and then it could be a disaster. Like on the 23rd floor, they have a major crack in the drain pipe. On the 23rd floor, it leaked. What happened? We don't know. The pipe was old, but we do know that units 22, 21, 20, all the way down to unit number 9, floor 9, called because there's sewage water dripping from the ceiling. Wow, that's a major claim. Okay, and that's in a condo building, high-rise condo building. So be proactive, inspect your piping. And what else could be a leak? It could be your roof, right? Have you ever inspected your roof lately? Do you know what the condition is, right? Do you know like what the warranty is for what type of roof you have? You have an asphalt shingle roof. Well, what is a warranty? Is a warranty 30 years? And how old is your house? 46 years, and you never had any roofing work done or never had any roofer come out to inspect your roof? You're like overdue, right? If it's a wood shingle roof, inspect any type of roof. All these roofing companies will be happy to come out and inspect your roof, right? So make sure that any sources of water leaks you take care of. How about if you built an addition to your house, you had a patio, right, in the back of your house, and you decide we needed more room, so let's put up walls, put up a roof, and make it like an extension. But guess what? When they built the patio slab, right, it was a little higher than your house. And when it rains, water gets into your house because of that condition. That's not a good thing too, right? So you want to fix all these things that could be conducive to flooding. Now, if you filed an insurance claim because water got in, right? And the insurance adjuster or inspector goes to look and says, aha, the reason why the water got in is because, look, your patio slab is higher than your house floor and it slopes towards your house. When it rains, water got in. And so, sorry, we're not going to deny the claim, right? Or so we're going to deny the claim, sorry, right? And you want to fight. But what happens is they hire people like me to inspect, and I look and go, wow, this is what the cause of it is. Oh, how come the roof leaked? We have a $80,000 claim for flood damage, water damage because the roof leaked. And I go on the roof and I go, I know why the roof leaked, because it's so old. It should have been replaced 7 years ago. And so the insurance company uses my report and says, based on this professional inspector, you didn't care for your house, and that's why there was a leak. So we're not going to cover that. We're not going to pay. That's what the insurance company is saying, because you read your policy, you're supposed to maintain your house. You didn't maintain it, so don't go crying to us. We're not going to pay 1 cent. So that goes on in the industry, and it's getting worse and worse as time goes on. Insurance companies don't want to write the check. So naturally, they're going to come up with different ways to say why they don't want to pay the claim. So anyway, hopefully I covered that question. Any other questions?
Yes, Lance, you covered that and some. And I must say that I probably had a lot of experience when, especially when you're a homeowner for a long period of time, all the things you talked about, you eventually will experience, guaranteed, whether it's leaky roofs or the shut-off valve. And I wanted to ask you, on the shut-off valve, I've gotten into the habit of checking it about once a year. What is a good thing to make sure those valves don't freeze and rust and all that?
Well, plumbers say every 30 days, right? So, but to me, that's overkill. If you can turn it and it moves freely, and you look at it and there's no rust or corrosion or anything, then you're good to go. But be aware, there's a lot of cheap stuff out there, cheap products that don't last too long. They sell those angle stops with little plastic handles, and the plastic is so thin. They're all made in China, and there's all different grades, and you buy the cheapest one maybe, and that's not going to work. The plumbers know what kind of products to use, name brand ones that are going to last, right? So every 6 months, maybe you turn it on and off and see if it moves. If it older houses, no one ever checks it. I had a house the other day where we had to replace the washer dryer, and I couldn't even I had to get tools to actually turn the valve off. I had to turn the valve off so I could disconnect the hoses, so the movers could move the washing machine out. So, and no one ever looked at that or moved it for 20 years. So naturally, that's to be expected. But
yeah, you're right. We've been there, done that, and ours was about 40 years before we moved it, and then same thing, frozen, had to have the plumber come and replace all those pipes. Yeah. So
yeah, but before you call the plumber, like I was turning the handle and now it starts leaking. Well,
yeah,
it was frozen. I couldn't turn it, so I was banging on it with a wrench and turning it, and then now it starts leaking.
right.
Fortunately, I turned it all the way off, and then the leak stopped. What happened if I turned it all the way off and it still leaked? Started to leak. Well, I got to call a plumber now, right? I could have actually turned the main shutoff valve off in the street, but anyway, that's the kind of things you deal with, and um, most homeowners don't know this stuff, so it's good.
You're
So
right.
did I answer the question? Did you
You
ask a
did, you
question?
did and some, and having you as a friend and helpful guide has helped me make sure I avoid all those problems, so I appreciate it. Okay, let's
Hey,
move
no,
on
no
to
problem. I'm gonna send you the bill.
the. Okay, the next question that's come in here is, how does water damage impact the structural integrity of a building? And what steps should be taken to address water damage once it has occurred?
Well, for the most part, um, hardly any structural damage caused by minor flooding or water leak. It's mainly um, your drywall of your house or your ceiling. Um, they're not structural components. So rest assured. But if it's major and it affected uh, steel beams and all that, and if you can't clean the corrosion off, then you would replace it. So I haven't seen too many houses and condos that had major structural damage from flooding. Although, if I switch gears and talk about bridges and public highways and all that, I've seen a lot of cracks and damage from flooding, right? And it's just going to get worse because the government doesn't spend the money to go fix these things in a timely manner, and it's going to get worse. So, with respect to houses, I don't think there's a major problem. Now, I'm not talking about if your house gets blown down from a hurricane. I'm talking about leaks, roofing leaks, and all that. I've seen a roof leak that had structural damage because they didn't fix it for so long that the wood got major structural members of the roof got uh, wood rot and termite damage. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay, thank you for that answer. And the next one that was asked here is, what are some of the health risks associated with exposure to water damage? And how can property owners protect themselves and their families from these risks?
Well, first of all, you gotta kind of know what your house is made out of. If your house is older, like I mentioned, you may have asbestos, and that's a number one culprit when you have a flood. So you got to remember that if you do have water damage, you have to have your wall or ceiling tested uh, to make sure that the contractor's not fooling around with hazmat materials. Now, the professional contractors, every single one of them, before they do anything, they're going to say, we don't know if it's asbestos containing material or not, so we're going to have it tested. And if you say, well, why do you have to spend the money? Then they're going, well, we don't want to work on your house then, right? So you have to take precautions. And there's a law that governs environmental hazards. So the contractor doesn't want to be in trouble. Now, if you get contractors that aren't professional and they just want the money, yeah, no worry, I can go in there. Oh, the other guy said they got to test it. We don't need to test it. We're just going to cut the walls out and put new walls in. So no need test because we're just going to assume that it has that. But um, do they know? Right? What if there is asbestos and they don't have their hazmat license? They could get in trouble, big fines and all that. So it's better to be professional and on the side of caution and follow all the regulations. So did I answer that question?
Yeah, you answered the health risk, and it brought up one that I've kind of always been interested in. And what about the four-letter mold issue with the water damage?
Well, some people downplay it, and a lot of smaller contractors say, "Hey, no worry, um, we'll just get Clorox and clean it. After you wipe it down, they look and you don't see any dark stains and all that. But does that mean there's no mold? I've inspected houses where it was clean and we took test samples and there was still mold. So there's no guarantee. So what you gotta do is make sure all the guidelines are followed and ask the contractor, right? The contractor's coming in. Okay, we're XYZ remediation company. Here's what we're gonna do. But some people, they get so frantic, hey, just get rid of the water and you know, I have to live in the house. You got a wet vac. And so what happens is a contractor comes in and with their wet vac, they bring in dehumidifiers, all these fans and intricate machines that put holes in the wall and run dry air through it to try and dry everything out. Some do, some don't. Some of the smaller companies, they said, oh, we're just going to go in and whack this thing out and be done with it, right? So you can, still get your house back. But people are so frantic that they don't ask questions like, oh, can you give me like your whole written protocol, exactly what you're going to do? Because I've never been down this road before. I don't know what the steps are. What are you going to do next? And don't, you can rely on verbally what the guy's telling you, right? But ask for it in writing. Say, isn't there like a guideline or something? And most of the homeowners that I've talked to, in fact, probably 9 out of 10, 9.9 out of 10. I don't know if there's a 0.1 homeowner, but anyway, when I asked them, did the contractor ever give you like a written protocol? Oh, no. They only said what they're going to do. And I got all these invoices and all that. And, sign here, sign there. Okay, so word of advice, ask the contractor to give you their written protocol of what they're going to do to mitigate the water damage. Okay, and they might say, well, we never do that. Well, can you like put something together? Believe it or not, there's standards to follow on how to do things. And do they give you those standards? No, they're not going to give it to you, but they can kind of summarize it. I know what the standards are. I paid like a couple $100 for the books. And none of these contractors, if I go visit them, in the field, they don't have the book with them, but hopefully they're following the right protocol. Okay. So not only how to do things correctly, but how to bid. If you look at the bid, right? Can you understand it? Are they overcharging you? Are they undercharging you? You don't know how to read that thing, right? So it becomes really specialized, and they know it's an insurance claim, so they got to be real specific down to the square footage of how many walls are going to get cut open, right? How many walls need to be painted by square foot, and it's all unit costs and measurements and all that. If you ever read one of those documents, it's kind of hard to understand. You have to have patience, right? So, did I answer that question?
I think so. We were discussing health risk, and you brought up something that made me think of another question, but I'll hold on that.
Yeah, so yeah, just be aware of the mold situation. You don't want the contractor to come in and just tell you, yeah, no more mold. Ask, can you take bulk samples? Can you take air samples? And you want to know what the results are. You don't want them to come in, oh, I look around, I don't see any mold, or I'm in mold areas all the time. I don't smell the mold. You can smell the mold, if it's really bad. Well, that's not a true test, right? I mean, if it's a trained dog that's trained to smell mold, fine, but we don't use animals for that purpose, right? We want to use the labs and take samples and all that. So just be careful. It's a touchy subject, and you're right, it's a 4-letter word, and you just be aware.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'll kind of ask my question related to this next one. But first, let's address this viewer question. What types of insurance coverage are available for water damage, and how can property owners ensure they have the appropriate coverage in place to protect against potential losses?
Okay, well, you talk to your insurance agent and you ask them, right? And if you ask your insurance agent, I want to cover my house. I'm in a tsunami zone, a flood zone. I want insurance. He's going to go, we don't provide that. You got to get it from the federal government or another source. Okay. All right, fine. But what about like if my toilet overflows, leaks, or I have a pipe breaking in my house and there's a water damage, the flood. Okay. Well, they're explained to you there's a difference between a homeowner insurance if you live in a single family house versus if you live in a condo, right? If you live in an apartment unit because you're a tenant, you can't get that kind of insurance, right? You have to get tenant possession uh, insurance, right? Which doesn't really cover major flood and all that. But every insurance is different. A regular homeowner's insurance, if you live in a condo, you can get an HO6 that covers more, but then there's a condo master policy. So it gets really technical. I could do a whole webinar on different types of insurance, but maybe I might do that in the future. But yeah, it's best to talk to your insurance agent because every company is different. And I don't want to be the one telling you something and then I find out that it wasn't correct information. So I would say defer to the expert. I'm not an insurance expert by any means, but I'm familiar with insurance policies, insurance claims, because I have to read it all the time. So um, any other questions? We got like some good questions today.
Yeah, very good, very good. Yeah, and let me put my video back on here so we can kind of talk story. Yeah, as far as that insurance thing, I mean, I think you came up with a good point of, most of us as homeowners don't know the questions to ask our insurance people, about, what do I need, to cover whatever the things are that you're mentioning. So that's a good thing. I know you're coming up with all kinds of guides for homeowners, and that would be a good thing. I mean, it relates to insurance, but still you need to make sure you ask the right questions to get the right insurance, right? So that's a good one. But the question I had was related to, you mentioned about the mold and the remediation process and the company doing their thing and in order to meet whatever the insurance needs. So I was just kind of curious, when you're filing for when you're using your insurance filing for, because you've got to solve a flood issue, do they need to provide, or again, it's probably what you're saying, depends on what the insurance company needs, like a report of what they did in order to do the remediation, in order to make sure that the insurance covers the problem that they solved. It just brought up that point of, I mean, that's a good reason to ask for their protocol and what they did, because if you need to report what they did in order to get the insurance to cover, it's probably a good idea to ask those things and get that documentation. So
Well, the major remediation companies already know what the protocol is, and the insurance company knows. So they just they know what kind of paperwork's needed, and they crank out the paperwork. So it's a whole system where these companies know exactly what the insurance companies need, and they provide that.
right.
And but that's for the insurance company. The homeowner gets copies of that stuff, and they don't know what they're reading, right?
Oh, okay.
But they don't get a copy of the protocol and the procedures. They get a copy of their bill, the invoice, and all that.
Right.
So my advice would be ask for the protocol so you understand what's going on. You got people coming to the house, setting up equipment and all that. One of the questions is, well, how long is all this equipment going to be here? And the answer is, we don't know, because we're going to come in and test. If there's still moisture, we're going to leave the equipment in longer. If there's no moisture, everything's dried out, then we're going to remove the equipment. So it's a case by case basis.
Okay. No,
So
good.
yeah,
Very,
do we have any other questions from audience?
no, I don't see any on our LinkedIn side. Unfortunately we didn't get all your Facebook fans, but hopefully they'll catch the replay. Yeah. And
Okay,
we'll be back on Facebook next time once they kind of clear up the streaming issues for us, yeah.
yeah, that sounds good. All right, so we're gonna sign off. Thank you for participating. Hopefully you don't get into a flood situation, water damage, but if you do, I hope that we were able to help you and give you some bits of advice. So tune in next time for the next webinar. Go to our website, watch other webinars that we're given, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Aloha.
Aloha.